Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena. Tonight's matchup features the Houston Rockets and your New York Knicks. The head coach of the Rockets, Jeff Van Gundy, assisted by Steve Clifford, Andy Greer, Tom Thibodeau, and Patrick Ewing. Now for the Rockets starting lineup. At guard at 6'3", from Maryland, number 3, Steve Francis. At guard at 6'4", from Rhode Island, number 5, Katina Mobley. At forward at 6'11", from Iowa State, number 13, Kelvin Cato. At forward at 6'6", from Ohio State, number 21, Jim Jackson. And at center at 7'6", from China, number 11, Yao Ming. For your New York Knicks, the head coach is Don Chaney, assisted by Brendan Malone, Lon Kruger, Herb Williams, Michael Malone, and Greg Bridnan. And now, please welcome your New York Knicks. At guard, at 6'2", from Georgia Tech, welcome home, number 3, Stephon Marbury. At guard, at 6'6", from Tennessee, number 20, Alex Houston. At forward, at 6'10", from Utah, number 2, Keith Van Horn. At forward, at 6'9", from TCU, number 40, Kurt Thomas. And at center at 7'2", from Georgetown, number 55, Dikembe Mutombo.
From the playgrounds of Coney Island to Abraham Lincoln High School in Brooklyn, and now a New York Knick. Emotional moments for Stephon Marbury on a memorable night here at Madison Square Garden. Former Knick coach Jeff Van Gundy and former Knick star Patrick Ewing receiving warm receptions from this capacity crowd. It is a charged up atmosphere as we get ready for the New York Knicks and the Houston Rockets. Hi everybody, I'm Marv Albert, Steve Kerr, the Czar, Mike Fratello, and Steve, there's no question Stephon is feeling the butterflies as he makes his Knick home debut. What are you expecting tonight from Stephon Marbury?
Well, fortunately, he did get a practice under his belt yesterday with the team. He'll be a little more comfortable, but he's got to find a way to lose himself in this game without letting the nerves affect him.
Czar, the Rockets come off a poor performance last night in Detroit, score only 66 points. Yet here they are, the 19-15. They have won 3 of the last 4, but Jeff Van Gundy is not pleased with what he has seen in recent games.
Jeff Van Gundy is trying to create a new culture. Settling for losing and not making the playoffs becomes too easy. Last year, they wound up 43-39, 4 over 500, and they didn't make the playoffs, and they won't make it once again this year if they're only 4 over. They are trying to look at the big picture and create a different attitude amongst these players.
And look at the numbers for Yao Ming last night. Another subpar performance by Yao, and talking with Jeff Van Gundy, not pleased with what he has felt has been the timid play of Yao Ming, who's been frustrated by foul calls. Van Gundy says he's got to play through it.
Well, and he also said that the next time Yao Ming gets double teamed, he'd like to see him swing an elbow into the face of the defender. So that tells you right there, he wants the big fella to be a little tougher down on the block.
The officials, Steve Javie, Ted Bernhardt, Violet Palmer, The Knicks have lost 3 in a row after winning 4 straight. 3 of those 4 in blowouts. They come off a defeat in Cleveland on Tuesday, lost to the Cavaliers. Stephon Marbury and Penny Hardaway did play. They were erratic. They were told they could play about 20 minutes prior to the game. They had to wait for, and they'll jump it again, they had to wait for Antonio McDyess, Howard Isley, and Charlie Ward to pass their physicals with the Phoenix Suns. Marbury and Hardaway did walk-ons. They had not worked out with the Knicks, who went through that extensive practice yesterday. Don Chaney saying it was a crash course for the new players. But he expects much more here tonight. And there is a call on Mutombo holding Yao Ming.
And you saw Yao make a quick move that time. Mutombo anticipating that Yao was going to try and back him down. That time it was a catch, turn quick to the baseline, try and get the shot off.
I think that's something that Patrick Ewing has been working with Yao Ming on, trying to just make a quick move before that double team can even come.
Rockets have been struggling at the line. Last night, only 11 of 19 from the free throw stripe. Houston in a stretch. They're playing 4 of 5 on the road, 3 games in 4 nights. They're going back-to-back here.
Marv, you mentioned the disappointing numbers last night for Yao. Well, one thing Jeff Van Gundy was going to do, force feed him right away, get those numbers up.
All right, here's Van Horn, met by the double. Thomas, yes. So the game is tied at 2. As you touched on earlier, Steve, Stephon Marbury has had much success against Steve Francis. Francis forced to give it up. Here is Yao Ming showing the outside touch.
If you can get Mutombo to protect the basket by driving it hard to the baseline the way Francis did, Yao with his shooting touch has the ability to step back. That was even a step or 2 beyond what I thought his normal range was, Steve.
Amazing to see that kind of touch from a big guy.
Houston hustling for the rebound and fires. And back comes Cuttino Mobley. So Mobley and Francis in the backcourt. Jim Jackson is up front with Yao Ming and Kelvin Cato. Cato gets inside.
Well, Jeff Van Gundy talked to us before the game about the importance of Kelvin Cato finding 8 or 10 points somehow. Maybe an offensive putback, maybe a little chippy like that one.
The other night in the game against the Cavaliers in Cleveland, the Knicks were very surprised by the quickness of the passes from Stephon Marbury, and they were just out of sync.
It takes a lot of time to get used to each other, and they didn't even have a shoot around together, so this is going to take a little bit of time for these guys to get comfortable with each other.
Well, the Rockets showing a
big free throw here by the senior All-American.
This shot is not for just the school, but an entire family, the Marbury Bush.
11.8 seconds left. 59-56. A 3 can tie it up. And Miles is going to take it off the back of the iron. Outlet to Hawkins. Hawkins for the layup. And Lincoln High School will win the 1995 PSAL championship. 61-56 the final.
Marv, not only was that Stephon Marbury's biggest moment in the Garden, I talked to him tonight, he said that's the biggest moment in his basketball career. He said second was the day he was drafted. The draft was held at the Meadowlands. He was talking about playing with Glenn Robinson because he was drafted by Milwaukee. Then 20 minutes later, he was traded to Minnesota. He was talking about being drafted and playing with Kevin Garnett. He said the third biggest thrill in his entire career, putting on that Knick uniform tonight. I said, what about Georgia Tech? What about playing with the Suns in the playoffs? He said, those are team-oriented. This, as far as I'm concerned, third biggest individual thrill.
All right, thank you.
We're not quick or athletic, that we can't make up for bad play, but we are good enough to win games at the end if it's close.
And the crowd reacting to the first Garden appearance as a Knick by Penny Hardaway, 4-time All-Star, former member of the Orlando Magic and the Phoenix Suns. Jackson is rejected. Here comes Anderson. Hardaway came on for Van Horn, who picked up a second. Anderson. Hardaway gives it up. Houston, yes. And the Rockets, after hitting their first 7 shots, are just 1 for their last 7, and Jeff Van Gundy wants to talk it over. The Knicks, when they were 10 up and 9 down in his 7th season as head coach of the Knicks. He had taken over from Don Nelson, had enormous success in New York. This is only his third time back to the Garden since he left the club back in 2001, 2002. He's back here for a college game, back last season when Patrick Ewing's number was retired.
Interesting quote today from Allen Houston talking about Van Gundy leaving 13 or 23 games into the season. He felt like Van Gundy kind of let that team down and bailed out while the ship was sinking.
Francis, rebounded by Houston.
I have not liked 3 of the last, let's say, 6 possessions that the Rockets have had, the types of shots they've taken.
Penny Hardaway not able to hit.
Well, this is not a great offensive team, as we talked about. And I think the Knicks have a great chance to kind of play loosely. Now they're behind. It's sometimes as a player, it's easier to go when you're behind and you can just kind of let loose.
Well, Jim Jackson has had the touch. Another 3. He is 4 for 5 from the field. He has 10 points. Thomas. The Knicks are 4 for 17. Francis. Wild play, but got it to Coutinho. Coutinho Mobley from Steve Francis. Rockets 28-8 over the Knicks. Marbury. And the foul is called. It is on Cato.
28 points in the first quarter, and it's not even over. This is like a whole half for the Rockets in many games this year.
Houston averaging just under 86 points per game, which places him not last, Steve, but next to last.
Oh, sorry.
Next to last. 28 out of 29.
Well, 66 points last night, equaling a franchise low. That's a 3.
The deadline comes where his contract is guaranteed for the remainder of the season, so that he's not cut or waived, hopefully, before that time.
The poor Knicks shooting continues. They are at 28% from the field. Here is Yao Ming. And the Rockets have opened up a 20-point lead. And now picked up by Coutinho Mobley. Looks to do it off the dribble. Rebound Van Horn.
That's because the penetration pulled the big people off to come and try and block or change.
Every day, and a gangster's a gangster in every way. Sitting on 22, this what long money do. Now Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, Staten, Uptown, what now? Let's make it happen.
Welcome back to Madison Square Garden in New York. A look at Times Square here downtown. The Knicks trailing the Houston Rockets 54-37. Rockets who scored only 66 points last night in a loss at Detroit, with a 54-point first half here against the Knicks. Steve, what do the Knicks have to do to get back in this ball game in the second half?
I think they've got to show some sense of desperation and get out of that little zone defense they're playing, put some pressure on, and get out and run and turn Marbury loose. I think they're just way too tight.
For the Rockets, perfect first half.
I think Jeff Van Gundy's game plan was ideal. Get behind the three-point line, make 7 out of 11 from behind the three-point line, hold the Knicks at just 34% shooting. They're playing a perfect first half. We'll see what happens in the second half.
Now let's take a look at the Dodge game summary. Stephon Marbury in his first game as a Knick here at Madison Square Garden. Only 2 of 7. 4 assists in his 20 minutes of play. All 4 occurring in the last 2 minutes and 20 seconds of the half. Yao Ming got off fast, 3 for 6, 10 points. Coutinho Mobley leads the way with 11, including 3 of 4 from downtown. And look at the points off turnovers. That has been a Knick problem all season long, as they committed 10 turnovers in the first half.
You know, it's very unusual, Marv. The 3 areas that I call effort areas. Points to the paint, second chance points, fast break points. New York leads all 3 of those areas, but they can't overcome the sensational shooting of the Houston Rockets.
Yes, Rockets at 50%, 19 of 38 from the field. They hit their first 7 shots. They had 21 unanswered points. Yao Ming coming up with that block shot. The Knicks open with Dikembe Mutombo, Keith Van Horn, and Kurt Thomas up front. Allen Houston, Stephon Marbury in the backcourt. And Thomas has been off. 1 of 6 from the field for Thomas. Francis, Katino Mobley at the guards, Yao Ming, Kelvin Cato, Jim Jackson on the front line. Here is Cato, rebounded by Yao, and he is fouled.
Great job by Yao Ming, just running right to the front of the rim as the play developed. And usually that's where the ball will end up if it doesn't go in.
You know, as an opposing coach, I always looked at Mutombo and said, is he long? Is he tall? But watch Yao next to Mutombo. He's much bigger than Mutombo is. That tells you how big Yao Ming is.
Yao at 7'5", 7'6", take your pick, 310 pounds. Jeff Van Gundy has been trying to motivate Yao to play more aggressively. When Carroll Dawson, the general manager of the Rockets, met Yao for the first time 2 years ago, one of the first questions he asked him was, why don't you dunk the ball? Dawson said he'd been taught not to embarrass his opponents, and told him if you don't dunk in the NBA, 6'6" guys will block your shot. Yao has been dunking, but Van Gundy wants him to pick up the ferocity of his game.
I had no idea Carroll Dawson spoke Mandarin. That's impressive.
I'm not sure. I can picture Yao screaming as he dunks it,
yes,
and then beating his chest as he goes down the floor.
Yao does not have a mean streak. It's just part of his personality, his culture. Marbury, yes. Stephon Marbury.
You talked to Portland?
Well, I think when you're in a situation like we're in, you know, rumors and speculation, you know, when you're losing team, you know, people are going to speculate about you, and rumors are going to always be out there. We won't comment on rumors and speculation, but, you know, that's part of the game.
There's also a lot of talk about patience here in New York. The fans don't have a lot of it. How much will you have with Don Chaney?
Well, I don't think, you know, this is, you know, they've been down for a while here. And, you know, as I said, you know, we're not going to come in and turn it around overnight. I think the people appreciate what we're trying to do here, and just in terms of getting started. You know, we'll continue to evaluate and continue to try to upgrade our roster.
As for Stephon Marbury's performance tonight, you went to Detroit, a team that won 16 and 21 games the 2 years before you got there. You sacrificed your individual game, made them a world champion. Is there a similar adjustment for Stephon?
You got to keep getting better. You got to keep getting better players. And, you know, as you continue to play with better players, you continue to learn more about them. And, you know, I would say with Steph, you know, Steph's at a great age, and he understands the game, knows how to control it. He knows when to score, when not to score. I think he's at that age already, and he understands how to play.
You said you won't comment on rumors, but is it safe to say you're not through dealing?
When you're in a situation like we're in, you know, you got to keep trying to win. We got to keep trying to upgrade the roster. And any way we can do that, we'll try to do it.
Thanks a lot, Mark.
All right, yes, Isaiah has been a very busy guy these past 10 days. Talking about Don Chaney, who one-time head coach of the Houston Rockets, spent 4 years with Houston, coach of the year, in fact, back in 1991. Houston is not able to find the touch. Don Chaney and his family still have an off-season home in the Houston area. But there is certainly pressure on Don Chaney.
I thought Isaiah did an excellent job of evading the two questions that we really wanted to hear the answer for. One was Rasheed Wallace, and two was Don Chaney's future. So
well, we heard it earlier in the evening. Of course, you hate to hear something like that, but these things do happen, Czar, as you know.
Marv, just prior to the trade taking place, New York was playing outstanding basketball. And we asked Don Chaney about that in his office as Yao Ming misses the turnaround. And he said the one thing that has stopped this team is that the players have been in and out, in and out, in and out because of injuries, whatever the problems have been the entire season. Just when they're playing their best as Mutombo finishes.
The final score actually does not indicate how bad this was here tonight.
amazingly enough.
So the Rockets make it 4 of the last 5. They go to 20 and 15. Knicks have now lost 4 straight. After winning 4 in a row, they dropped to 14 and 20.